Welcome in on a Sunday morning, 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. And Chris, it's been a couple of weeks since me and you have got to do this. I know you keep working, but it feels like I haven't seen you in forever. How you been?
Casey, I'm doing well, thank you. I thought you left me. I really did.
Never.
I thought you were gone. I mean, Scott's great though. Scott is a phenomenal. What do you call it? Broadcaster, radio host?
Yes, both of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, he's phenomenal at his job.
Sorry.
He's a good ally to have. But no, I couldn't leave you, Chris. I could never do that. But we are back in action, and we are back talking about something that is important and is important that you should know about. We will tell you about that in just a second. But Chris, as we do, the Bro Shoe Law Second Opinion. Please let people know about it and how you may be able to help them.
Absolutely, Second Opinion. If you listen to the show at all, you know by now. If not, Second Opinion is quite simple. If you have a military claim, benefit, anything related to any military legal claim that you have a question about, if it's a benefit that somebody told you is the most you'll ever get, or you have a question about your rights, feel free to give us a call, 904-201-1771. Again, 904-201-1771. What we do is we'll chat with you about your question or help you figure out what sort of legal claim you have or military benefit that you may have. If we decide to work together, then we would enter into a fee agreement. There is no upfront cost for us to represent you. We're going to advance all costs on behalf of service members and military families and consumers. And the only way you have to pay is if you win. So that's the only way we get paid is if we win for you. And obviously, we advance all those costs and only get those repaid if we win as well. So with that being said, Second Opinion, Scott and I have talked about this on one of the other episodes where we talk about the Military Lending Act. Mm-hmm. So that would apply anybody that's got one of those military installment loans. Think payday loan, short-term loan, one of those 6-month to 36-month type loans. If you have a timeshare that you're trying to get out of, and all of these types of loans that Scott and I were talking about are related to loans from 2019 till now. If you want us to screen those and give you a second opinion to figure out if that company may have violated federal law, give us a call. If you have a question about SGLI, VGLI, or TSGLI, that's your military insurance under Service Member Group Life Insurance, give us a call. We're happy to discuss that. And then anything obviously related to VA disability benefits, Camp Lejeune, and really any other military questions that you have. Today's episode is going to be about Camp Lejeune again. It's been, several months since we've talked about it. Obviously now we've started to get a little bit more info on what is happening with these claims. We've got a number of clients signed up and continue to sign more. So with that being said, Casey, I think the best place to start is just to remind everybody what a Camp Lejeune claim may look like. So if your loved one served at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987, you were a spouse, a civilian worker, a child, even a child in utero, you may have a claim under this new Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Our firm doesn't charge any military families up front to bring a military Camp Lejeune claim. And if you know anybody that was in the military between 53 and 87, they didn't have to be in the Marine Corps to have been stationed at Camp Lejeune. So there were actually a number of other branches that do a lot of military training in and around Camp Lejeune. And the reason is it's kind of this ideal base because you've got water access and it's this massive military installation. So they do a lot of different training. So the amount of people that were there, it's not like some, tiny base that, we've got how many thousands of military installations. It's not like a tiny one that a few people went to. If somebody went into the Marine Corps or Special Forces between 53 and 87, they may have went to Camp Lejeune. And all you had to do, folks, to have or qualify for a potential Camp Lejeune claim, you had to be there drinking water for at least 30 days. So 30 days, we've talked about this before. That's not, stopping through from New York on your way to Florida for a weekend. That doesn't qualify. But if we're at Camp Lejeune for 30 days and you have some of the adverse health conditions or medical conditions that we're going to talk about later, you may have a Camp Lejeune claim.
Yeah, absolutely. I think real quick, I want to just talk about this because we talked a little bit before the show. So 2 parts of this. The first one would be remind people how long they have to make a claim. And then after you do that, I want to get into the point of, you just said, as you always do, you guys handle the costs for military families up front. And I know this is a long process. Like you have a long time to file a claim. How does that work on your end, knowing that you're still years down the road of actually getting everything solved? You're taking claims right now and you're doing your job, but you're years away from even potentially seeing payout for these families. How do you guys just hold the or upfront it for that time until then?
Yeah, the firms that we work with on this, I mean, we'll co-counsel these with at least one other firm, likely two. And the main reason is the claims have to originate out of North Carolina. So we represent clients all over the country too. I mean, we've had cases just last year in California, Texas, Pennsylvania, New York. We just filed a class action in federal court in Virginia this week. So the main thing that you do is the firm will figure out, okay, where are we at? Because we've got to retain experts as well. So it's not just, hey, we'll file these claims and wait around. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do on our end, which is why you shouldn't wait. Mm-hmm. So although the statute of limitation is going to be open for 2 years, so that would get us through July of 2024, the real time restraint with a Camp Lejeune claim is that we need enough time to research, hire these medical experts if we need to at the administrative level, request all of the records either through 2122A through the VA or FOIA or any other type of request to get these personnel files. We need to make medical requests in any civilian facilities. And then, we've got to give the military 6 months, right? Department of the Navy gets 6 months to review a Camp Lejeune claim. So, the pre-suit investigation, the waiting for the Navy to adjudicate the claim, we're probably already looking at around 9 months.
Yeah.
So it's not, it seems like 2 years, but frankly, you'd rather get it filed than be rushing around the last month or two trying to figure out and kind of parcel together a claim. Because here's the other thing, and this is really important. This is why, hiring a VA accredited attorney is probably so important with these Camp Lejeune claims, or somebody that files claims against the government. The reason is everything that you argue at the administrative level is what you're going to be arguing to the federal court when you file the lawsuit. So you can't sandbag them and be like, oh yeah, this is this case is worth X amount, and then you get to the federal filing and you're like, this case is worth $10 million.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Right.
Everything in your administrative claim is going to be reviewed by the federal court and that federal judge, and you can't slow roll it. So that's obviously important to know. We do, different types of military claims, so we know that. But that's going to be a really big kind of hurdle to get these first claims submitted, because the vast majority of these, my humble opinion, we're not going to really know if my theory is correct until around February. Like, I guess we should revisit this around then, at least this talking point.
Okay.
And what I'm talking about is, does the military or the U.S. government play ball and pay out some of these claims? Do they outright deny all these claims and prepare them all to litigate them? Or do they do nothing? So those are their options for Camp Lejeune at the administrative level. They either accept the claim and pay out whatever you put on that form, they deny the claim, and now you have the right to litigate it, or they do nothing, in which case you have to wait 180 days. and I'm sorry, I keep saying 6 months. Technically, it's 180 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so just as a civilian, let's just put it that way, not a lawyer, not military. When I hear the 3 options that you just gave me, I feel like I know which one it likely would be. But, and again, if you can't really comment on it, don't. But of those 3 options you just gave me, like, how do you foresee this playing out? You can answer. I
think truly, well, let me ask you, what do you think happens? I mean, in your civilian, non-legal opinion, what do you think happens?
It just seems like it would be the don't pay it out right away. Like, that just doesn't seem like it would happen. So I think it would be the don't do anything and go to litigation would be my guess.
I think that's a pretty good point. I think the only way in my mind that I think they'd get paid. So basically and this is, again, just kind of my opinion in reviewing all of this.
Sure.
Again, we haven't had any rulings from the judge. We haven't seen how the court is going to rule on any of these issues. We haven't seen how the government's going to defend any of these issues. So this is all kind of just trying to parcel through what we know about the statute. But I think at this point, because the duty and breach element, were met when they created the statute, and obviously we've got, all of our clients have significant injuries. I mean, cancers, birth defects, brain injuries, ovarian removal, miscarriages. I mean, a number of one of the significant things we're seeing is a lot of tooth decay.
Really?
So just about every single one of the clients that we've come across, but that hasn't necessarily been connected. So what that all boils down to is proximate cause. So that's where I think some of these might get paid. I think if a and this is what we try to do on our end, if we can connect the toxic water exposure to, the cancer, and not us, right? Because I don't have the medical background to be able to do that.
Right.
So that's why we hire these experts.
Yeah.
Whether it's the treating professional, right? The doctor that the veteran or spouse went to, the cancer doctor or the oncologist that says, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. And the only way you get that is if you're exposed to benzene, right? Or whatever. And then they're like, well, I was at Camp Lejeune for 3 years,
Yeah.
And they're not, the spouse was never in the military, they didn't have any significant exposure to toxic water, right? Besides this one occasion or time of their life. I think that's where the military could say, we believe that this expert is correct.
Yeah.
Because their expert will then review that and say, does that meet, the threshold of what because again, the military knows how they're going to pay these claims. Does it meet the threshold of what we're looking for?
Yeah.
Those claims, I think, have a reasonable chance of getting paid out. The more difficult claims, where you have a number of things going on, and I'm not going to reveal what the defenses might be because I don't need to.
You don't need to help anybody.
No. I represent military families. I don't do anything against them. But I think the cases that I have that may be a bit more challenging, then I think that those will be ones that would just, and I'm with you. I don't know if they'd deny it because once they deny it, then you can file right away.
Right.
I think they'd probably just, again, under the law, they're allowed to do that, just not answer. And we have potentially a million claimants here.
Yeah.
So not our firm, but in general, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing that the government's going to have to combat is, okay, which one of these do we just get rid of by paying, and which one of these are we going to fight? And I will give you one example of one that I think is a legitimate claim, but one that I don't think would be necessarily paid right away.
What you got?
I've got a client that has a DD 214 from so basically when they discharge from the military, that shows they're at Camp Lejeune for a few years, and a death certificate where it shows that they died of Parkinson's in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a whole lot of records from the 50s, the 80s. I mean, it's unless the military has it or they kept them at their house, civilian hospitals keep them for 10 years.
And we're way over that. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not, that's a pretty difficult task to overcome. But again, we've got a DD-214 that the military knows they were there, and we've got a death certificate that shows the cause of death. I think you can make an argument, you know. I think, but again, is there a material fact in dispute? Probably. Yeah. That's probably going to take some discovery. Probably, you know.
That's a fascinating just idea that, I mean, because to me, again, civilian, non-lawyer, non-military, makes sense, right? We've got the proof that they were there. We know now that people that were there and drinking the water have these problems. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and someone will have to argue it. I think you'll have to argue it, and that's what you're good at. So by the way, if you're listening and you think you might have a case here, you need Chris's help, 904-201-1771, or you can send him an email, case@brochu.com, which is BROCHU and then law, LAW.com. Chris, how you mentioned a client that you just have, but overall, this is still new, still a fairly new thing in terms of people being able to file suits for this and contact you and have you help with them. How's it going? Like, how many clients are you getting a day or just often? Like, how many people are you seeing really need your help with this?
I'm not going to reveal how many clients have called me.
Sure.
Because I think that's likely proprietary. But what I will say is that I get calls on a weekly basis from new clients that are just hearing about Camp Lejeune. And one of the things I will say too, there is so much misinformation out there. I mean, you and I talk about this. When you and I talk about pre-show about what we're going to talk about, we talk about, all right, let's talk about this week. Let's talk about that, right? When we talk about Camp Lejeune, the first thing you tell me is what?
That I'm seeing commercials on TV all the time.
Radio station, right? I mean, the ads on TV. I mean, it's everywhere. I was on a flight recently back home, like we were visiting my wife's family. We were coming back home. On the TV on the plane, there's a Camp Lejeune ad. And I'm like, how? I didn't even know that TV had ads, but I'm like, how would somebody, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there are a lot of really good folks out there, a lot of really good attorneys that are taking this matter head on and going to be able to represent military families, right? I mean, I was representing military families way before Camp Lejeune, and I'll be representing military families way after Camp Lejeune, right? This is like what I do.
Right.
Now I help injured people, I help civilians, I help consumers. I represent people, but the reason that we talk about this show and only talk about military topics is because nobody talks about it. The only thing anybody wants to talk about related to military claims and military legal rights are VA disability. Snooze fest, right? I mean, everybody knows VA disability exists, right? And it's important, but the reason why I say snooze fest is because can we talk about anything else? Can we talk about the other issues that are plaguing military families that nobody wants to have a discussion about? Like the fact that there are at least, I don't even know how many military lenders out there that are allowing loans over 36% MAPR, that are allowing military families to roll over or refinance the same installment loan with proceeds from the same lender for a different loan, right? They're requiring mandatory allotment. They're requiring a bank account as a security interest. These are huge issues too, right?
Yeah.
That are affecting service members and their dependents. But we've got so many other things that people are concerned with that nobody wants to talk about that. So that's why I think it's so important that this show is about protecting military families, especially because we've got to kind of swim through the trash a little bit with the misinformation. And Camp Lejeune is a great example. I mean, the amount of advertisers out there selling leads, this is the most common one that I get. And I had 2 calls, this is true, 2 calls with advertising companies that wanted me to pay them to find leads, right?
Okay.
And they're really legitimate companies, like they follow all of the rules and all of that stuff, which is important. But besides those two credible, reputable companies who probably find decent leads, there are so many others on social media and everywhere else that are just, they have no idea. Basically, if this is their slogan, 1953 to 87, cancer, file a claim today.
I've heard it, actually.
There are millions in comps. I mean, it's absurd. So that is the most common call that I receive. Somebody has found me, and the military community is really, they're really great. I mean, it's like as grassroots as it gets. If you help one, they're going to tell their whole network about you.
Yeah.
But it's hard to kind of break into. So Camp Lejeune, I mean, I'm getting calls from people and they're like, yeah, I see ads every day on TV, but I don't trust them. You know?
Yeah. I mean, non-military, but like I see it and I'm like, don't trust it. Just knowing the information that I've gotten from you, just having these conversations, right? I'm like, I don't know if I would call. And like, I start to wonder, like, I feel bad for military families who could see, again, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all the ads are non-legit, right? I don't know that to be true. But what I do know is if I'm watching TV at 2:30 in the morning and that ad comes on, I'm not going to feel great about it. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah. I feel bad for the military families that, you know, may have contacted some of these non-legit places when they could have contacted you. And obviously that's what you're trying to do, get the word out there to help military families. Chris, I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you on the other side of the break because we are up against it. But I do wonder, with all the ads we're seeing, and I want to try to relate it to something, and I know that's not a great tease, but I want to get your opinion on it because I think you'll have really good insight from a law perspective. So we will do that on the other side of the break. 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk, protecting military families with Chris Brochu. More to do right after this. The 7 o'clock hour, 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We are protecting military families with the one and only Chris Brochu from Brochu Law. Talking Camp Lejeune, a lot of good information in the first half hour. Go back and check it out, WOKV.com. Or if you want to see a video version of the show, you can find it on Chris's website, Chris's YouTube. Brochu Law is the place for all that information. Justin with Nova Productions hooking us up with a video version of the show each and every week, so you can see it every single week and go back and watch old episodes as well with a video version, which for some is better than just audio. You get to see it. It feels like you're really there, Chris. It feels like you're really there. Exactly. We got more to do, but before we go back into Camp Lejeune and dive into it, you got something really cool coming up in November. Just go ahead and tell us about it, because it's cool to see that you guys are doing this, and I'll just let you explain it. But it's a really cool thing I think you're doing.
Sure thing. My wife and I are planning an event with Jacksonville Humane Society. I don't know if Jacksonville Humane Society has started putting anything up on social media about it, but it's going to be sponsored by Brochu Law. My wife and I are going to be there, and basically it's going to be at the Southside location, and we're going to sponsor an event called Pets for Vets. So if you're active duty, National Guard, reservist, one-day muster duty, you know, you're a veteran, you have somebody in your family who's military, we're going to sponsor the event so that your pet adoption fee on Veterans Day is free. So if you and your family want a four-legged friend and you want to add another to the mix, we're welcoming you to our event. It's going to be on November 11th, that Friday. It's going to be noon to 4.
Noon to 4.
It is on a Friday. I'm sorry. That's the only day that we could really do it around. Thankfully, we got Veterans Day, but obviously Friday is going to be a little tough for people. But if you can bring your military family out, once the kids get out of school or something like that, any of the dogs or cats are going to fit under the scope of our event. Come in, we'll pay for the adoption fee. We're really trying to clear the shelter, and we think it's a great cause. We love Jacksonville Humane Society, and
No, it's an awesome thing. It's cool you're doing it. First 50 families, right? Military families.
Yeah, I don't know how many pets they'll have. We think it's going to be at least 50 adoptions.
Okay.
Dogs and cats. The shelter said that their kitten season kind of goes with the hurricane season. So I think it'll be kind of
I get that.
done by then.
Yeah.
But there'll be plenty of adult dogs, adult cats, maybe some kittens left. But we really, if you've ever been in there, it's such a great facility and great cause. And I don't think there's anything better than adopting a pet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really allergic to dogs. Otherwise,
Really?
a dog would be great. Yeah, I don't tell very many people that. I guess I just
You
told
just said it
a
on the
lot.
radio. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, like bad respiratory stuff. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. So I've always had cats, and we always adopt them from the shelter, and they're the best.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to pay $1,000 to get a great pet.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not going to watch the video version of this, which we encourage you to on Chris's website, Chris had a big smile on his face when he just said that, talking about the pets and his cats and all that. So, yeah, we encourage you. We'll tell you more about that as we get closer to it, but just kind of an early heads up that will be something Chris is doing, which is awesome. No other way to put it. All right, Chris, let's dive back into this. And before we get back into the question I have for you, we were just talking about this. On your website, proshoelaw.com, you guys have a Camp Lejeune research center, I do believe.
Right.
And you guys are working hard on that to give the information that people need to know. And it kind of goes in with my question, what we were just talking about before the break, how you got so many people advertising for this, and you were making the point that, you serve military families every day when some of these other law firms may not. But putting that Camp Lejeune Research Center up on your website, just kind of give people what they can find in there and how it could help them before they even contact you or any other lawyer.
A lot of my clients have found the Camp Lejeune Resource Center to be kind of the quick hitter, hey, history, water sites, years, contamination, injuries, cancer and other serious illnesses, and really gotten to dive deep in that. Another great resource as well, and I wish that we had 5 hours to talk about this because I'd break down every single topic. But obviously, as you and I do these shows, we'll have kind of one main topic. So today we're going to talk more about like cancers and illnesses that I've seen, and some of the other ones that may be connected to toxic water exposure. But a lot of the clients that I've discussed this with saw on YouTube, they're like, wow, you post really substantive videos, so I can watch for 45 minutes you talk about the well sites and the history of it and all these different things and who may qualify. And so I think that's really the biggest thing, is just before you ever, and I'm not even saying to sign up with me. I mean, I say this in every legal area and military area that I do. It's like anything. I want you to get as much information as possible so that you and your family can make the best decision for you. And if I'm that decision, great. And if I'm not, no problem. I mean, the whole purpose of spreading the word about all of this is we need more good guys fighting bad guys, right? And I'm not saying, that this Camp Lejeune is us versus the government. I'm not saying that. I mean, it literally is in the case, right? I'm not saying that the government is always the bad guy at all. But my point is, in the lending type cases, if nobody is willing to stand up to some of these predatory lenders, the conduct never stops, right? So with Camp Lejeune, my biggest advice is do your research. Do not just dial the 800 number and sign up right away. Read about it. Figure out who has read about Camp Lejeune and knows kind of what's going on there, not just the time period. And then the other part of that too is figure out what firm you like. Call a few firms, right? Screen it out. That's really probably the best advice, because I'll have clients all the time. They're like, hey, I'm going to call you, and then I'm calling this firm down the street to see what they have to say. Great. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like the type of guy that's going to be like, oh, they called me, I'm going to keep them from calling anyone else. Like, if they want to call 2 other law firms and figure out what they have to say about it, feel free.
Yeah.
The guy down the street wants to do it for, a fraction of the price, go for it. I mean, you can buy a lot of different types of pasta sauces at Walmart. We talked about this before, but this isn't necessarily something that I would want to buy great value on. So
yeah,
I'd probably I'd probably try to find an attorney that was VA accredited that knows kind of what it's like to sue the military or file a claim or file an administrative claim. And there are going to be a lot of different types of injuries and medical conditions out there that may be applicable. So I just want to run through it real quick.
Yep.
You know, we've got a ton of different types of cancers. So they've got bladder cancer, brain cancer, cervical cancer, esophageal, gallbladder, kidney, liver, Hodgkin's lymphoma, leukemia, right? They've got lung cancer, all these different types. And I've got the entire list, you know, rectal, prostate, pancreatic, ovarian. I've got the entire list on my website, brochulaw.com, at the Camp Lejeune Resource Center. And if you ever have a question too, I'm happy to speak with you. Send a message to Case at brochulaw.com. That's Case, C-A-S-E, at brochulaw.com. And again, even if you just want to talk about it, we're happy to speak with you and advise you at least on what's going on with the claims and how the process would work. And, you know, don't be shy to reach out. We're not going to make you pay us to talk to us or make you sign anything to talk to us. I mean, you can call us, ask about it. If you like it, and we think that you fit our criteria, you know, we can get a fee agreement in place. The other ones that are serious illnesses but may not fall into that cancer category would be female infertility, infant death or childhood death. So that was a big thing at Camp Lejeune. They have, I think Ed Bell talked about this, around 5 grave sites that are just dedicated to children under 5. So infants and toddlers.
Let's stay there for just a second. I know you want to run through the rest of these illnesses, but that's got to be, at least in my mind, and I could be wrong, please correct me, but it feels like that's going to be some of your toughest cases to argue, at least from my mind. If you're, or maybe I'm way off, but it feels like if there might not be the documentation that could be needed for like a child death in that case. Am I way off there?
I got to ask you this question again as a civilian non-lawyer because I want to see your argument here. You'd be good for the government. No, I'm just kidding. What do you what basis would you have? Because that child probably was in the hospital.
True. I just wonder if, since we're going back so many years, I wonder if like the document, like just having the physical documents, I guess would be my question.
No,
like, do they still exist?
It's a really good point because they did have a major hospital. So I've got several clients that were born at Camp Lejeune, the hospital there. So that hospital would have records. And the only reason why I know this is because I've got a client that told me, oh yeah, they reached out to me in 2012 and said, hey, we know you're at Camp Lejeune. Tell us what illnesses you have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's why I say, I know I've seen tossed around out there 1 million claimants, but whenever I hear and I'll say this with air quotes, at fault party, tell me how many claimants may have been injured, I think to myself, is that their number or is that the actual number?
Yeah. So
I don't know what the answer is. I guess we're going to see by July of 2024 how many claims are filed or paid. But yeah. So to get back to your question, I think you're onto something, but it wouldn't cause me to deny the claim. I just think it might make it more difficult.
Yeah.
But unless the government can show, this is my opinion, that there was some other cause, some other genetic or defect. Well, when that child dies of name one of these conditions, and all they have ever done is live at Camp Lejeune, right? Because they're an infant.
True.
Well, I would make them have to come up with evidence to show that it wasn't. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Now, if they have the medical records to support that it was related to some other genetic link or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe some SIDS argument. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I just was wondering about the documents, but I guess as long as you have them, and again, to that point, like, I guess I kind of forget at times that, like, not that the government's trying to hide anything, but at times I'm like, are the documents fully accessible? And I guess, like, my weird conspiracy theory mind's like, they're not, but I guess they actually
No, I think the government does a pretty good job of keeping records, but I think like anybody. I mean, it's just, we have got, I mean, at any time, you know, especially in war times, even more service members, but
yeah,
how many millions of military families since 1953 do they have personnel and medical for?
Right.
And I mean, there are cases of like a fire that took out a bunch of records. I mean, there are a number of things that I think can be argued, but the bottom line for me is this: to meet with me, you don't need to have any of these documents. A lot of times I'll have a client that's like, Chris, I can't get a copy of my DD-214. I can't get a copy of my personnel file. I don't have my VA medical records.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sweat it. That's why I have my VA accreditation. All we have to do is submit a 2122A and any other VA documents that are it's similar to a FOIA, but because you have this accreditation, you can get access to it. They'll send a CD or they'll send us whatever they have, and we can try to parcel through it that way. The only real thing that we need help with, and a lot of times it's just because the military family, the spouse, the veteran has greater access than us without us having to request it and go through all these legal hoops, would be some of the civilian docs. So when, you know, I have a client that says, yeah, we were going to see this oncologist and they connected, you know, bladder cancer to Camp Lejeune, right? One of the cases I have. Well, the oncologist would much rather work with the family than work with me. So all the spouse, usually it's free. The spouse is just like, hey, doc, can I get the records? And they just bring them to me.
Yeah.
Or they mail them in or whatever. And then when they mail them in, we scan them and send them back. But the bottom line is you don't need to come to me and prove the case. That's what you're hiring us to do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Casey, because that is such a big sticking point for so many military families. They're like, Chris, I don't have any way of proving this. And I'm like, don't worry, that's what you're hiring me for.
That is your job.
I get that all the time about VA disability. I had a client that was like, Chris, I know that my cancer is related to, you know, nuclear exposure, and I can't figure out my ship, you know, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, don't worry about it. You know, that's what we're going to help you with.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. It popped in my head as you were kind of discussing it. But anyway, I know you have some more illnesses you wanted to run through.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad that you talked about that, because that's going to roll into our next topic, which is damages, right? And that hopefully will be enough information for today. I don't want to, you know, overwhelm this topic, because I think like each single area that we cover could be an entire 3-hour episode. So the other ones that are main ones that we see, cardiac issues, especially in infants, like kids that were born there. The tooth decay one was big.
Yeah.
Birth defects, another big one. I've seen at least 2 now with birth defects and brain defects, and any involved with ovarian removal or miscarriages, mm-hmm. especially at a young age. Those are really. I've seen a fair amount of those, and those are really interesting to me in a kind of in a different viewpoint, because of the fact that you've got someone that's so young with no genetic link that is getting this random, you know, diagnosis.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've never done any, you know, they're 20 years old and they're having their ovary removed.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really just unfortunate that so many of our military families are going through this. But immune disorders, any fetal malformation, miscarriages like we talked about, neurobehavioral disease, Parkinson's is a big one. I've seen several of these ones that would be in their renal toxicity or renal toxicity and disease. Scleroderma, soft tissue sarcoma was one on there. There was a few related to kidney and nerve and immune disorders as well. So if you have any, you know, if you have any medical conditions that are unique or not related to any genetic link or anything like that, give us a call. We're happy to speak to you about it. And we're not just focused on these cancer type ones. I mean, if somebody thinks that they can connect it, please give us a call. We've had at least 2 calls now from spouses that basically what happened is they had a child after they were at Camp Lejeune and the child had a birth defect. And it's a really fascinating argument because the egg, right, the woman's egg wasn't fertilized until after they left Camp Lejeune.
Right.
But if the woman is only given a certain number of eggs and is subjected to toxic water exposure,
yeah,
I don't know if you have to be like
there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's super hard. It's one of those issues. Like, I don't know if legally you could win, but I've had 2 calls now about something related to a very similar factual scenario, and I think it is quite interesting because it's like, well, is that the child's claim because they weren't born yet? So probably not, because they weren't in utero.
Yeah.
But would the wife have a potential female infertility claim because of the future damage to her children? You know? I don't. It's really. I don't know. It's one of those things that's why these are not like a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives me bonkers when I see people saying like Camp Lejeune class action. It's like, this is not a class action. There's no commonality between somebody that has liver cancer and Parkinson's.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's not the same. You're right about that. But hey, Chris, before we get out of here, you just mentioned it though, the damages, and I was kind of asking you about this in the break. And you described to me how there's money set aside. Just kind of explain that to the listener and kind of how the damage is and how that will work when we get to that point.
So the damages are going to be just the same way that we represent families in injury cases. So we never talk about it on the show, but here's the shameless plug. We also represent families in automobile accidents, premises liability cases, negligent security. So if somebody's harmed at a local business, right? Like if they were shot at a business or they were assaulted or sexually abused or anything like that. So in those cases, and similar to Camp Lejeune, you're going to look at economic and non-economic damages. And basically the way to think about that is, what are your current and past medical bills? What are your future medical bills? Pain and suffering. So if you have a permanent injury, what are your lost wages? What do you have for mileage getting to and from the doctors? What do you have for prescriptions, right? So you're paying for prescriptions. What about loss of consortium, loss of the ability to live the life that you want with your loved one, right? You don't have the same marital life. You don't have the same intimate relationship that you once had. You know, you can't hold down a job because of all the doctor's appointments, or you're going to chemotherapy now 3 times a week. There are so many factors that go into it. And then the other thing is too, age, right? So somebody that's a female who had her ovary removed at 20, who was at Camp Lejeune, who wasn't able to ever have children, her damages are going to be completely different than a veteran that died at 85 of liver cancer. They may both have claims under Camp Lejeune, but their damages will be different.
Yeah.
Because the other part is that 85-year-old might not be working any longer, whereas if the female infertility or the ovary removal means that she, got divorced, couldn't have kids, was no longer able to keep her job because she had doctor's appointments or couldn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Those are all factored in. So that's why we can't say like, all right, Camp Lejeune claims are worth
this much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like if you ever look at the NFL concussion fund, we were talking about the funds earlier.
Yeah.
That's one of those where you can say, okay, Parkinson's is worth X. I mean, the NFL, and again, it's been a while since I looked at this and nobody hold me to it. I think it was like over $1 billion fund for any of these medical conditions. But I just remember when we read about it, it was like, this medical condition equals X amount of money. If the U.S. government gets to a point where they have a fund and appoint a special master, it could go that way, where they say, okay, if you can prove, supported by medical evidence and an expert that your toxic water exposure is linked to your Parkinson's diagnosis, or the estate brings the claim on behalf of somebody that passed away, and the government agrees, then we'll send the claim to the special master and they'll give you X. Who knows how this claim is going to get sorted out? That could be, that's what they did in the 9/11 Victim Fund. We've got cases, terrorism cases against Iran that we have a few clients with. Those claims are basically, once we default Iran in federal court, then once you have the judgment, then you take the judgment to the special master, and then they basically submit the claim to the fund. That fund is like the second iteration of 9/11 Victim Fund.
I got you.
And basically for those claims, what we're doing is we're representing military families that were severely injured or killed in a specific combat zone, and where the combat zone had a terrorist that was planting or manufacturing a bomb that blows up a service member, funded by Iran. So that's how there was money left over. So it rolled into now the second iteration of the 9/11 Victim Fund. That's how these military families.
Gotcha.
I don't know what's going to end up happening with the U.S. government, if they're going to set aside an amount of money, if they're going to have a fund. We haven't gotten there yet. But the biggest thing that you have to do is you can't wait.
Yeah.
I don't mean you got to call me, but you got to do something about it, or you're going to waive your right. Because once this statute of limitation runs, the door is locked forever.
Yeah. So absolutely. And you want to take advantage of that while you can. You can give Chris a call, 904-201-1771, or you can send him an email, case@broshuelaw.com, or just go to broshuelaw.com. He has a Camp Lejeune resource center. You can find out what you need to know, and then you can contact Chris. You can do it in either order, but the information is there on Chris's website for you to look at and use whenever you need it. Chris, I enjoyed it. We'll do it again next Sunday morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, Casey.